So we're at the stage right now where we are going to ask for a approval of the amendments to the document that was submitted for the reading. So we have this table here, and I'm going to put this on my screen again. Hopefully my computer has not died.
Kim, just for clarity, would you walk through what the votes are going to be in advance so we understand that session?
So we actually have 3 votes, and I'm going to use the word vote lightly because we're seeking consensus in the process, right? So we have an amendment first to utilize, hold on, mine's saying battery low, hold on, hold on. I do, okay, so hold on. We're going to fix this.
That's a new one in the voting. IDESG 10th.
All right, we're going to figure this out so I can show you all this. Okay, so there's a time fear that we're going to lose people at noon, but we are going to finish this by noon, so I'm okay with this. Even if I'm having computer problems. Hold on.
Kim?
Okay, so in terms of the process, step 1 is going to be that we're going to focus on approving the document that was presented before you that you've had time to actually review. Then we're going to go to the amendments, and then we will approve the document with its amendments. Dr. Tom?
Point of order. I'm not sure whose parliamentary rules we follow under the Rules of Association, but I would like to divide the question so that we're not voting everything, all of those recommendations up and down at once.
Yeah.
Part of my interest is the accountability part, which we submitted.
Mm-hmm.
We have an amendment that directly relates to that, a secondary amendment. So I would prefer, as a point of order, that we divide the question and just vote one at a time.
They are going to be all separate votes. Okay. So I think it's what you're requesting. Okay, so I actually don't have a slide for the vote without the amendments because I was going to do the amendments first and then voting of the document, but it was recommended that we actually vote on the document as it stands first. So it's 1 second.
If I may, is that you need to have the item before the body.
Right.
You won't vote on it necessarily because an amendment would be an appropriate first step. So the first thing is to get the main matter, the committee report, before the body on a...
Which it has been, so I'm not sure exactly.
Well, it's on the agenda, but now somebody needs to move for to reach consensus on the report. That's what I'm saying. Has anyone done that?
Right.
Did it start?
No.
So somebody needs to just move the item for consensus on the report of the Security Committee, and a second, and then it's there, and then you can move forward with the amendments.
Okay. So Ian Glazer, Management Council, Delegate at Large, I move that we consider the Security Committee's functional model for consensus consideration.
Second.
So we have a first and...
Adam Madlin seconds.
Thirds.
So we have a second and third motion to have this matter brought before the plenary. So are there any objections to, hold on, I'm trying to look at our ombudsman who keeps making a face at me. So are there any objections to having this motion be brought before the plenary, and we're going to vote on the matter as it was at hand, as it was presented first? So as the document stands today, are there any objections to the document?
I want to make sure, because you're dividing a step into two. This is just to bring it for the body. And then second is the document itself. How do I object? Right?
Are there any objections to bringing the document before the plenary body? Are there any objections online? Okay, so we are officially bringing the document before the body. The next thing is around actual approval of the document. And so I was going to bring forth the amendments first. And so the first amendment, as everyone should see, is the Appendix A. And so you want me to do the face document first before the amendments are added to it? Okay. So I don't have, okay, so again, I have no slide on that one. So is there a motion to approve? Okay.
May I?
Yes.
Kim, my lawyer friend in the back of the room thinks that under Robert's rules, you would first bring the motion to have it on the table.
Which
and
it is.
then you would do the amendments, and then you would do approve as amended, assuming the amendment's passed. Now, without offering any opinion whatsoever on whether a lot of that stuff has been superseded by the special rule, it may not apply here, since it's a consensus process. Nevertheless, if it will help, I move to adopt the report. And if somebody seconds, we're past that, and then we can get on the amendments.
So let me just point out, we have already made a motion and approved, and there have been no objections to the motion to have the report brought before the committee.
Will that do, Steve?
Well, that was just done.
Okay, well,
So that's already
then
happened.
Can we go straight, then can we talk about the amendments,
You can talk about the body of the document.
which includes amendments? Okay, and then we'll have one more vote at the end, right? As amended. All
So
right.
as
As
you
I
all can see, this
understand-
is our first process in this. We're
As
going to
I-
limp right through it.
Well, I'll help you with the limping. I'll do the old Walter Brennan routine, if anybody remembers Walter Brennan. The matter is before the body. The body can now discuss the matter. Individual members can now seek to amend the matter that's before the body. Once you've exhausted all the discussion and amendments, then you vote on the entire matter as amended or not amended.
Correct. So because of that, I don't see, is there a need to have, there's not a need to have a vote on the actual document right now because we have amendments to add to it. So why are we voting on the document and then voting on the amendments? That makes no sense to me. Okay. All right, so we are voting on amending the document that has been presented before the plenary. A motion to amend the existing document with the appendix that was shared with everyone. We have a second amendment, amendment to have more specific language that we'll also vote on. That's your secondary amendment, Dr. Tom.
So can I speak to that?
Can we do the first one first?
Oh, I'm sorry. What's the first?
So the first two is to actually adopt the appendix in
Adopt the appendix in entirety?
in its functional
Well, that's
model.
why I asked to divide the question. Okay, I'll do whatever you want.
Each individual item in the appendix.
Can the appendix be amended?
Yes, the appendix can be amended. And so we have before us a motion to add the appendix to the document. Then we have received already a motion to have a change to the appendix. So yes, there can be another motion to have a change to that appendix. But I think that we first need to adopt the appendix because there's already been comments about some people do not agree with even having an appendix at all. So I think the first step is a motion to amend the existing document with an appendix that is the one that's been presented before us.
Can you just increase the size of this so I can read this?
Yes, and it was actually the document, so I just made a smaller version of the appendix that everyone saw a few minutes ago from the security committee. But so this is just, again, trying to summarize. I didn't think that everybody would remember what they saw beforehand. So again, I'll make it larger. So in that document that was presented by Sitharama and Adam, there were 5, let me change this, hold on. 5 areas where they made the comment so it's Appendix A, and their comments are, these are existing, not exhaustive topics for further consideration, which will be addressed. And then they have a row for each of these items. So the question is there a motion to accept this amendment, this appendix, by amending that to the functional model? Are there any objections? So do we have a motion to even bring this up? All right. Tom. So moved. Thank you. Is there a second?
Lionel Cares, DOJ, second.
Lionel Cares seconds it. Thank you. So are there any objections to adding the appendix?
Absolutely.
So Jim Zock has, there's 2, there's 3. Are there any other objections? Okay. Okay. So, hands keep going up. Okay, so we do have objections as to adding this. Are there any comments to this objection?
This is Peter Tapling. I don't object to the content. I just don't think that it needs to be part of the work product that's adopted by the body. So I think it's great that this was called out, and I think this is great going forward effort that needs to be put in and perhaps incorporated. But I am reasonably certain this is not the entirety of additional work that needs to be done. So I don't want to adopt this appendix with this presumption that, oh, and this is all the other work we need to do. Okay. My comment.
Thank you.
So this is part of the discussion, whether or not it should be included with the work product. Originally, my committee wanted to include our amendment with the work product, but after discussing it with the Security Committee and then redebating it yesterday with ourselves, we decided that would be a bridge too far. And so we came to the conclusion that we would add our amendment to the appendix rather than try to get it in the work product, as long as the appendix was published alongside the work product, recognizing that, in our opinion, there were some important elements that were omitted from the work product.
So since I don't know if we actually have consensus on this amendment, I'm going to just do a quick vote and say, all those in favor of the amendment, aye. All those opposed to the amendment, nay, and we can move to the next amendment. So are all those in favor of the amendment, to adopt the amendment, to add that to the functional model? If you can just say aye, and we'll try to figure this out, and then we'll do the nay. So all those in favor of adding the appendix to the functional model?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to having the appendix added to the functional model?
No.
So there appear to be more nays than ayes. So then the amendment was rejected. Okay? There's been a request for a hand count. So all those who, I'm not going to be able to do a hand count of the people online, but I can do those in the room. I don't know if we have a way to deal with that in the remote part of it. But a hand count of all those in favor of adding the appendix to the document, if you could raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed to having the appendix added to the document, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Any abstaining, or is everybody voting?
That's the next one. And are there any of those that abstain? There is 1, 2 in the room. So based off of the vote in the room and the remote attendees, are there more than 9 that are voting?
How do you vote if you're online?
We have a list of the attendees, and I'm going to ask that if we have more than 9 people, then it's worth asking, you know, and then I want to get the official count. Otherwise, we already have more nays than ayes. 1 second. We're checking that right this minute. So the issue will be, as I'm waiting for this, since Appendix A, depending on the outcome of that, that will change the amendment that's the next one, which is to make a modification to Appendix A. If Appendix A does not get added, then there will not be additional comments to be added there.
You can ask people to email their votes to help.ecosystem.com.
It'll change the timing of it, though.
Well,
How many people are online?
voting members.
Yeah. How many voting members are online? So we'll just wait another second for this. When we started the process, there were 26 total voting, so I'm trying to see if anything has changed. And I know we're at 11:58, but if you just hold on like 3 minutes, we'll be able to make it through all of this. And while we wait again, the interaction model was also something that the Security Committee wanted to bring up, and that will be something that we will have to do at a subsequent time, as you can imagine. I wish I could see the remote attendees, so I'm sorry.
Okay, we actually have 4 people online who can vote
We have 4 people online that can vote.
at this moment. We have other people online, but they're not representatives here.
Okay, so given the fact that we have 4 people online that can vote, if you would like to send your vote in just for the sake of having that available, you are more than welcome to do that. But the nays still outweigh the ayes, and so we will actually reject that amendment to add the appendix to the formal document. Yes, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I have a question because we did ask specifically, we, the Healthcare Committee, to take a line item on each item, rather aggregate it as a whole. Because I think there are some very unique things to which you know the history to on accountability, to which we've had a lot of input, historic input, not the short term. That I would like that to be readdressed. That's why Dr. Tom, as chair, asked for that individual process so we could take a line item by line item and let the body then decide, gee, based on the amendment of what's going into item 1, hey, that should be part of it.
And so while that was not, so the appendix was presented in its entirety from the Security Committee. So I don't think that I can break up their appendix. However, I can take Dr. Tom's amendment as a completely separate item and have a vote on that, not related to the appendix. And so I think that solves the question that you have, but I do not think that we should change a work product by changing the appendix and breaking that into components. That has not been approved by the Security Committee to have brought before us.
Yeah, so I mean, there are a number of ways to accomplish this. Anybody who's been in any kind of parliamentary organization knows you can vote to rescind and then revote, where my suggestion would be that our amendment be considered as a line item separate from the rest of the appendix, because
I agree.
Because as I said, the Healthcare Committee really wanted this in the work document. And by the way, we said this back in February. So that's what how to accomplish that, I'll leave that up to the chair and whoever else wants to be the parliamentarian, but we feel that this is a line item that is important to be in the work product. And we weren't happy with putting it in the appendix, but we wanted to be sort of team players.
Yeah, I have a similar feeling about the human user. I didn't even know this document existed until about an hour ago. So I would rather have it as a line item also.
And you have the right to do that. So I will, right, so we have to make a vote on this one as well.
I'd like to move and put in a motion that at-large group consider this to be incorporated into the corpus, the main body of text.
Okay, so.
It's getting hard to hear everybody.
What Dr. Tom has recommended.
Okay, so they're actually, yes,
please?
so there is actually, yeah, there's actually a motion first from Dr. Tom Sullivan representing the Healthcare Committee. It's in the red writing, to add the following words to the work product. There's been a second by Dr. Jim Craw.
Jim Craig.
Craig.
I'm not a physician.
Right, Jim Craig.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Jim Craig. I'm not a physician, though.
Sorry,
I think
Jim.
I am, but they'll kick me if I said that.
So there has been a motion and a second. Angela, what were you going to say?
I'm going to propose an amendment to the amendment if Dr. Tom would. But you have to accept it for us to discuss this first.
Okay. So are there any objections to making this a formal motion for vote? Okay.
Tim, I have an objection. This is Adam.
Adam, can you, okay.
Well, this is Peter Tapling. Adam, I'm going to let you go because my question was I was going to ask if somebody from the Security Committee could weigh in on that motion.
Which this has been actually submitted before the Security Committee. Adam, please go ahead.
So I'm not objecting to the intent. I'm objecting to the specific content that is here, that is reflected on the screen, that needs to be further vetted. I don't feel it's accurate, and as a result, I'm uncomfortable in that. So I would object either as the motion or object, vote nay to it.
Yeah, so you can vote against it. You can vote against it, but these are the words that Dr. Tom has proposed. So you can vote against his motion.
So, but you did ask for an objection to the motion, right?
Objecting to bringing this to before the plenary. One second.
Quick clarification. It says add it to the work product, but it doesn't really say where or in what way. Is the suggestion that this is going to be added to the suggested amendment?
Be, wherever you determine, but it's under accountability, and accountability in the work product right now.
Can you go closer to the microphone? So
accountability in the work product is under the governance layer, and it's also mentioned in the administrative layer. So, we don't have any strong position wherever at security if this passes.
So the request is to add this to the work product and then to be discussed and negotiated by the Security Committee and the Healthcare Committee in terms of the actual location of where these words are added. Mhm.
Is it open for discussion?
Wait, hold on. So
Dave, go first.
there haven't been any objections to making this a motion, so I'm declaring this a formal motion, and we can open this now for discussion.
Wait, I did object. This is Adam.
Oh, Adam, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I objected to the motion.
Okay.
Adam, this is Jamie. Your objection will stand as a vote against it when it comes up for a vote, but it doesn't prevent the body from discussing it. And I think, Dave, there was ahead of me in queue for comments, if you want to comment on this.
Yeah, if we're open for discussion, the points that are raised here on accountability, timestamping, auditing, and other potential actions are exactly the process that we've been pursuing. Consider the functional model a bucket of functions. The next step, simply describing what? The next step is to describe how those functions would be performed, and that's the requirements process. So if for functions within the functional model, if timestamping, other auditing, or other accountability measures should be taken, those represent requirements of how you perform those functions within the functional model. So it's the next step in the process that every committee's being asked right now is, do you have requirements for the functions in the functional model?
So if I can respond to that, that's exactly what we debated in the Healthcare Committee yesterday afternoon in our meeting, and that's why we put in the next version. However, we felt this rises to such a level of importance, especially where liability in healthcare is so critical when it comes to security and tracking transactions, that we tried to use the language that the Security Committee used, and they said there are multiple other protocols, but we wanted to call out timestamping and auditing as being very important and in the work product, but we're recognizing right in the language that it be in the next version. It just needs to be called out in the first version of the work product, that there's yet more to do.
Let me just make sure, I don't have anything lined up from any comments online, so we're going to go to the next in-person comment.
Dave, this was put forth in February, so it's not a last item. I just want you to know that. And for whatever reason, it's just not there, and it should have been there. So that's why you see the intensity of the discussion. But you had a little history. Okay.
Angela? And make sure you get close to the mic so that people can hear you on remote.
No one's ever told me they couldn't hear me, so that's ironic. I was going to propose an amendment to the amendment and insert the phrase between other protocols, other transaction tracking protocols. Just to be, other protocols is just very high. I was just trying to bring it down.
Other
transaction tracking.
Okay, I'll just make
Just
a
keep
note
it
for
open-ended.
this.
We'll need that restated, Kim?
The request was to change the amendment to other transaction tracking protocols instead of just other protocols. Transaction tracking.
I mean, auditing is referenced already in the document multiple times, and so that's another related reason that I'm concerned with the wording. Again, I'm not pushing back on the intent. I'm concerned with this wording being vague, not clear.
So in terms of
we'll let the process proceed.
Thank you. Dr. Tom, is it okay, are you in favor of making that change to your amendment?
No problem, but I think you have to vote on it.
Well, we're going to... Right, and then we'll do the vote after that.
There's no such thing as a friendly amendment, but if there were one, this is it.
Yes, Kathy.
Okay, Kathy Tilton. I'm going to weigh in favor of Dave's comment. I think that this is not the appropriate place for this. I think that all these things are very important, but I think it takes us down a path where we need to, you know, are we going to add encryption? Are we going to add signing? Are we going to add all other different, you know, security measures? Are we going to start adding, you know, specific interoperability requirements and specific privacy requirements into the functional model? I think that that this is not the right place. All those things are very important, but that's not the purpose of the functional model. It needs to be addressed elsewhere.
Thank you. Final comment.
Jamie from Oasis, I agree with my smart blonde friend there, Kathy. Our process allows us to test consensus and reach it quickly. And if there's a lack of consensus, our process generally requires that we go back to the drawing board and work on it some more, not try and draft it on the floor. So if we're at the point where we're trying to draft it on the floor, we've gone too far into the weeds for what the plenary ought to do. If you want to...
Well, that's actually different, though. Not to interrupt. We were just making a change to an amendment that was actually presented. We're not trying to redraft the functional model. We're trying to then be able to vote up or down on this proposed amendment.
And as our presiding officer, basically the body gives you the ability to do little things like friendly amendments and get away with it as long as nobody objects. That's the way it works, and that's great, and that's a good answer for this. What I am saying is that I think the fact that we're still word crafting it weighs against the maturity of the entire amendment and weighs in favor, as Adam said, of passing the original document and not trying to take one set of comments and elevate them into an appendix when there's probably more cooking and more comments that would be readily available. So what I'm saying is this exercise makes me as a voter say we should probably not amend the submitted document.
Thank you.
I'm just expressing that opinion.
Thank you. Okay, so we're at the phase now that we need to vote on this amendment. We're going to do the same process again, the motion again by Dr. Tom Sullivan to add the following words to the work product, and then the location of where that's getting added will be determined between the Healthcare Committee and the Security Committee and about the placement of the wording. So are there any, objections? Actually, we can just go straight to all those in favor and all those in favor of adding this motion, adding this wording, can you say aye, and all those opposed, nay? So all those in favor of adding this to the work product, can we have the vote for aye? Aye. All right, can we have hands, because I can't tell now. Everybody, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And all those opposed to adding the wording to the document, nay. Nay. And raise hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those abstain. Hold on. All those who abstain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are 7 who abstain, 9 ayes, 9 nays, and on the phone there were 4 people that are able to vote, but I cannot tell that remotely in terms of who of the 4. Adam and who are the other 2 voting on the line? Jim Fenton and Mary Hodder. So those are the 4 that have been identified as voting members. And so can I find out the vote of aye or nay for those on the line?
Adam, nay.
Okay. And?
But Tim, I have a question.
Yes.
There are other people on the webcast that are following on the webcast who are members. And, you know, I've been interacting with them. I mean, how do they get included?
My understanding is that those have been identified as non-voting members. If that is incorrect, I'm only going by the individuals who are identified as voters from the Secretariat. Okay, so I have 1 nay. And how do you vote?
Well,
or abstain.
But I think this way of going about it, it causes a lot of...
I'm sorry, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Oh. Sorry, wrong phone. Yeah, my sympathies are with it. However, I don't think this is the right way to go about it. I'm sorry to say, and I hope it gets through next time. So I guess I'm going to abstain.
Okay, thank you. Abstain. Okay, so we have 3 nays and 1 abstain. And so the nay now is 12. The abstain has moved up to 7. And then the ayes were 9. So this motion has not been, or this amendment has not been approved. Okay, so we now have a final motion that I need to have someone bring before.
Well, I thought I had a question about...
Sorry, no, go right ahead, Ann. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't want the minority report or the human user to be in this process either. I think it's not the best way forward for it. So I don't want to amend this as the way forward, but you had said that there would be some way to continue to move it forward. So if it's not in this appendix, how can it be moved forward? And that's what I'm interested in, not necessarily getting it through this process.
Right, so the only way right now...
I thought we were going to have a chance to discuss that, so...
Not in this vote for the functional model, though.
Sorry?
Not in the vote for the functional model.
So would it happen after that, or will everybody be gone, or what will take place? I mean, I think there needs to be a positive way forward for this whole discussion, a subcommittee, an ad hoc group, something.
So we can make that an item that gets presented.
There is a chair's call, a meeting right after this, Kim.
We can have this presented before the plenary at a later date, but not in terms of, this is our very last item on the agenda that we actually are now, thank you for all hanging in there, but we have to do the vote on this, but that will not happen at this time. Okay, so we are at the last step where we're actually having a motion, and we're asking for a motion to approve the functional model, including the administrative updates, which, and that only thing is that it right now has the word draft across it. We need to take that off. So I want to make sure that we're going to take that off. Required to finalize the published version by consensus with its approved amendments, which there have been none.
So moved.
Adam, motions.
So Angela Ray put the motion forth, and Adam, you have seconded the motion. Okay. So this is actually a consensus. So are there any objections to approving the functional model now with no additional amendments?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so there is an objection, so now we'll do a formal vote. So all those in favor of approving the functional model, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
So based off consensus, the ayes, are there any abstentions? Thank you, Kalia. There are 2 abstentions. So the motion has actually been approved then, that the functional model has been adopted. Thank you. And sorry for leaving out the extensions. Okay, so this actually is a closing of our plenary at this point. This was the last item on the agenda, and the only other thing I wanted to do is just to give a few thank yous for the people that kind of help in the back. So we had, Jim and the admin, the other audio video individuals helping us, and I just wanted to say thank you for all of your help to incorporate our remote attendees and to allow us to hear each other throughout the whole 3 days. And then I also, thank you, wanted to thank our secretariat. You all have not had a chance to actually meet them. So you've probably interacted with them throughout, but Global Ventures is taking the helm as providing our support functions. And so with the help of individuals like Daryl Garner in the back, Casey Kerr, Linda, Tracy, who was here earlier, but she had to leave because they're celebrating a grandparent's 100th birthday, so she had to leave. And then also for Mary Ellen Condon, who has our executive director acting in that function. So I just wanted to thank all of them for all of their work. We also have a plenary planning committee that was actively involved. Yes.
I'm sorry, before you wrap up, is there a meeting afterwards for the chairs? There's no invite or WebEx information that I've been able to locate?
There is a meeting, and as soon as we finish this, I'll follow up to figure out what to do next on that piece of it. So right now,
I just wanted to be aware that I don't see any dial-in or anything. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to attend that if it's open, and I think it was said it was open.
it is open, so we'll make sure that the remote attendees know how to log into that and be a part of the follow-up conversations as well. Are there any other comments or any items that were not presented that need to be discussed at this moment? Okay, so there's one thing.
I just wanted to make sure that we, place the recognition where it is due in terms of the functional model specifically. Mike Garcia and Ryan Galuso from NPO have immensely contributed to that particular document. So I just want to make sure that we recognize that. Thanks.
So I know we had a lot of conversations that were really detailed in this plenary, but we were able to actually pass our first real work product that's related to getting our deliverables in order. So I just want to thank you all for hanging in there and then for actually getting the functional model passed. Just like we heard from the privacy evaluation methodology, that as they've been working through this, they've identified ways to make improvements to it. So there are going to be improvements to all of our work products. So things are not static and that's the only time that they're going to come out. We're going to make revisions and improvements. So thank you again for hanging in there. And we do not have a date for our next in-person plenary, but there will be an announcement for a virtual plenary because there are a number of items that need to be discussed and even approved prior to our next face-to-face plenary in 2015. So thank you again and have safe travels for all of those that have to travel.